Hi everybody, this is Joel Carlson, and I am the host of Faces of Minnesota. Today my guest is Jordana Green. She is the WCCO radio host for their programming from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. So we're happy to have her and welcome her. We'll look forward to getting to know a little bit more about her and share that with you.
Thank you.
So for your first question, Jordana, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start from your childhood. Where did you grow up and what kind of things were you interested in as a child?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
Sometimes the accent comes out on the air a little bit.
Sure.
Certainly the bad attitude never goes away. And since I moved to Minnesota about 12 years ago, I always get the, so you're not from around here, are you? And I'm not, but it's been 12 years, so I definitely consider myself a Minnesotan now. And all my 3 children were born here, so they're Minnesotans, so I like to be honorary.
Okay.
But I grew up in New Jersey. Most of my childhood was there. I went to college in Syracuse. And then I moved all over the country for my news gigs. You know, I started as a reporter in New Jersey, and I was a producer in New York. Then I hosted a morning show. Then I was a medical reporter in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
I hosted a morning show for Fox and launched that in Indianapolis. And then I came here to start Fox 29 News at 9.
Okay, and that's where I recognize you from, starting, what was it, Fox first and then UPN? Correct.
It was Fox first for about 10 months or a year, and then Rupert Murdoch bought Fox and the UPN station locally.
Okay.
And switched our affiliations, and then we became UPN 29.
Okay.
And we were on at 10 o'clock for the next 5 or 6 years.
Now, if I remember me correctly, did you do just the 10, or was there a 5 and 6 also?
There was not. There was just the 10.
Just the 10.
At first there was just the 9, and then it became the 10, and it was just the 10.
Okay. Next question to ask you, when you were growing up, when was the point that you said, you know what, I want to become a journalist and get interested in broadcasting?
Good question. As a kid growing up, every morning I would eat cold cereal and I would watch the CBS Morning News. And at that time, and not only because I work for CBS now, that's just what we watched. It was Channel 2 in my mom's house, and that's what her soap operas were on, so that's what we watched, Channel 2. Diane Sawyer used to anchor the morning news cut-ins on CBS.
Okay.
And she was fabulous. She's Diane Sawyer. She was beautiful and poised and educated and just sounded so pulled together. And I used to watch every morning the news before I would go to school, and that was just what I wanted to be, just like her. So how do you do that? You go and be a reporter, you become an anchor, and you try to be just like Diane Sawyer.
Now, were there any stories that you covered that were somewhat memorable over the years that you've been in the industry?
You know, there are many that I've covered. There are also pivotal stories in my career that shifted my career and helped mold it. For example, like in New Jersey, when I was covering hard news, every day it was, you know, a fire where 2 young children were killed, or it was a rape, or it was an arraignment, or it was pedophilia. It was something awful that happened every day. And I do remember the night or the day I had where I came home and I was like, I can't do this anymore. It was a soldier was killed in the Gulf War, and I had to go and talk to his family.
Oh, that's
and I had to
tough.
make that call. And I had to call his mom, whose kid just died serving our country, and explain who I was. And she was inundated with media because even though I was a reporter in New Jersey, it was the #1 market. I was competing with all the New York stations. New Jersey doesn't have its own markets. We're part of New York. So I remember having to make that call, and I was terrified, and I felt awful. She took my call, and not only did she take my call, but she said, you can come and talk to me, but you're going to be the only one, because the rest of them are camped out on my lawn right now, and they've been camped out there since 3 in the morning. They've been banging on the door, and they've been disrespectful, and at least you called and you asked. And I worked for some crappy little station. It was like a sweatshop.
Okay.
I shot my own stuff. I edited my own stuff. I was a one-man band at the time. Now they call them multimedia journalists. We were one-man bands at the time. It's very ghetto. But I did. I went in and I walked past all the New York media, and they were like, who's she? You know, and she let me in, and I interviewed her, and it was just this amazing, tearful interview. And I remember leaving feeling like, that's great, I got my story, but is this what it's about for me? Is it about getting my story, or is it about the fact that I had to make this phone call to this woman whose son was just killed? And I decided that hard news necessarily wasn't in my soul, that I needed to make a shift. And luckily, a few months later, I got an offer to be a medical reporter, and that helped shift my career that way.
More informational as opposed to cutting edge news.
Useful.
Yeah.
Useful. I mean, I would do stories on, wound care centers for people with diabetes out in the sticks in Pennsylvania that did not know that there was an option other than amputation.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually helping people, and that was so different than reporting on someone's arraignment or the house where 2 kids died because of smoke inhalation before it burned to the ground. So I was actually helping people, and that was a great job, best job ever. I made $20 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
I commuted an hour each way every day.
Wow.
Best job ever.
Cool. Yeah, there is something to be said for job satisfaction.
Right, without a doubt.
So after being here for a while for Fox, what was your path from there to end up being at Weather Nation and then here at CCO?
Well, Fox 29 became UPN 29. Then we were on the air for 5 years, and finally they decided we're not going to do news anymore, and Jordana had no job. So the show went away, my job went away. I had 2 small children. My second was about 9 months old at the time, and I wanted another one, and I decided that it was time to take a break anyway, because I was working nights, and I needed some space from the news business anyway.
Sure.
It was another pivotal story that helped shape my career was Lacey Peterson, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Lacey Peterson, her husband Drew Peterson, killed Scott Peterson killed her in their backyard pool. I used to have dreams about Lacey Peterson.
Oh, wow.
Because I was pregnant at the time she was pregnant. I would have dreams where she would be in water telling me he's killing her, and it was awful.
Scary.
I couldn't sleep. It was horrific. So I knew that it was probably time for me to get out of the business because I was taking the work home way too much.
Yeah.
So again, that was a good sign, and when the show ended, it was probably a good sign to get away. At that time, I was doing a lot of freelance work. I started hosting a lot of meetings for pharmaceutical companies. The medical background was useful. I could host and MC meetings all over the country. I'd go 5 days at a time, come home, hang out with the kids for the rest of the month. It was easy, and the money was great. And then the economy tanked. The recession hit, and nobody had expendable income to spend on meetings or hosting or anything like that. So all my freelance work dried up.
Okay.
I'm sure that it would happen for a reason, so I could chill with the kids and be home, but I was not built to be a stay-at-home mom, ever. And I need to work. So
Gotcha.
after working through the whole I'm not supposed to be here, but it was good to be with the kids. I had a 3rd kid. I learned that it was time to go back to work. So by the time my youngest was 4 in preschool full-time, it was time to look for something else.